Hello, ladies and gentlemen, it's Poultry. I know it's been a long time since I've posted anything on this YouTube channel, but today I kind of wanted to rant a little bit. I've tried scripting this a couple of times, but I wasn't really sure what angle I wanted to approach it from, so I decided I'm just going to record myself waffling and you guys are going to deal with it. Hey, quick interjection, this is Poultry from the editing booth. Please skip to the timestamp currently shown on screen if you want to just watch a tutorial on how to do the counter hit down forward 2 into full crouch down forward to confirm, as well as a little practice routine so you can get it nice and clean. Okay, over and out. Bye. But the topic of today is probably my favorite move in the entire game. Now, obviously, I am a diehard Steve main in this game, at least until Kazumi gets added. Please, Namco. And so I've definitely got a strong bias, but specifically because of how different this move is from how it worked in previous Tekkens. And that move, of course, is his Crescent Hook, or down forward 2. So what I wanted to talk about was the levels of creativity and skill expression in this move. Those who've been watching my Twitch streams of late would probably know that I've been going for his full crouch down forward 2 confirm an awful lot in matches. To quite a lot of success as well, which has been really, really exciting. It's been really fun. I feel like I'm getting a lot of that same buzz I got when I first learned the Shiro combo back in Tekken 7. But that's kind of what I wanted to get to a little bit with both that confirm and also the levels of creativity on offer with this move more generally, even ignoring that launching component. So what do I mean by this? Back in Tekken 7, Steve's down forward 2 went through a few changes. So from what I understand at the start of the game, homing counter hit launcher with a very easy confirm. All you had to do was down forward 2, duck 1, and it was a free combo, massive damage, moves obviously homing, so you had a ton of coverage in neutral. Over time, they changed the move a lot. It got a lot of nerfs. They ended up removing the homing, and they ended up removing his duck 1 pickup. And so what you ended up having to go for was his mythical Shiro combo, which involved doing a down forward 2, confirming the counter hit, going into full crouch, and then doing another duck into 2 gatlings into an instant while standing 1. And that's how you picked up the combo. Pretty difficult to do, quite technical. A lot of moving parts in that combo. There were a lot of ways that you could optimize the consistency of the combo by doing stuff like a delayed duck forward 2 to tornado rather than doing it on an immediate timing, which would cause you to recover quickly or faster out of duck, which would give you easier access to an ender like a dash in instant flicker 1-1 albatross 2. So if you really understood how Steve worked, that combo would pay off in dividends because you could actually make slight modifications here and there to make it even more reliable. And that was a really massive draw for a lot of players. A lot of people played Steve because of the Shiro combo. A lot of people played Steve because of the difficulty and the creativity and the nuance involved. Fast track to Tekken 8. Biggest way imaginable for Steve players, because we are all easily shocked and surprised, was down forward 2 no longer being a counter hit launcher. Instead, they made it roughly plus 14 or 15 on counter hit, which would give you a while standing 1-2, a while standing 2-2, or a Sonic Fang if you were frame perfect. So this is what we had to work with in Season 1. But now, in Season 2, they've really expanded the potential decision space, as well as making all of these options a lot more accessible to anyone who wants to try the character. Insofar as down forward 2 is now plus 18. What does this mean for you? It means that your basic confirms, like your while standing 1-2 and your while standing 2-2, are now a lot easier. While standing 2-2 used to kind of be a minor hallmark of a Steve player who kind of knew what they were doing. Not to disparage anyone who wasn't doing it, but it was reasonably tight. Sonic Fang, I believe, was a 2-frame window. This was quite tight. And if you ever got hit by one of those online, you knew that the other guy probably knew what he was doing. But now, all 3 of these options are substantially easier. But not only that, they've added left weave and right weave as options as counter hit follow-up options. And not only that, but if you're holding back to go into guard after you do a down forward 2 into a weave, you block remarkably quickly. I don't know exactly how fast it is, but I do know it's very fast. It kind of feels like those instances where your opponent does like a power crush and you do 2-1 into peekaboo and then you guard, and any other character doing a 2-hit string would have gotten hit by that power crush. Not to say that it's as fast acting as Steve's peekaboo guard from strings, just to say that it's faster than you think it is. Because the animation is like this big, slow kind of winds to the side, back up to his standard posture. But this shit's remarkably hard to punish in neutral. And what I've been finding in neutral, before we even get into down forward 2's counter hit game, is if we were having a little bit of a neutral sparring match with like a Jin player, for example, and I've been finding that I'm generally coming out on top with my back 1 or my down forward 2, and he's starting to look for whiff punishes instead. You can't whiff punish down forward 2 and back 1 reliably with electrics because he can go into duck. Access to duck is so crucial for Steve's ability to navigate neutral in a lot of matchups in a way that's completely unique to him, or almost completely unique to him. And so what your opponent might start to do, and if you've noticed that they've got very, very sharp whiff punishment and they'll pick their options accordingly, is maybe the Jin player is an absolute nut with his reactions, and he starts going for can-cans. Because you do your down forward 2, you advance into him in duck, which forces you into crouch, and you get blown up by a can-can. That same can-can is going to lose to this, because it's not going to have the range to catch you. So what does that give you? It gives you a free whiff punish. You do this, and then you hit them with the 1-1, or if you're feeling especially spirited, a duck 2. And the duck 2 comes out reasonably quick as well, because you've already reached the apex of your weave. This is partially why you get stuff, players like Cowan, who are incredibly good at doing like a string or doing an option into like a weave into a duck 2. Because for whatever reason, when you do a weave before you go into duck and then you immediately hold down forward when you go to press duck and then you press 2, the move just comes out incredibly fast. And so you've got this option now. You've got this option where if you're incredibly ignorant and you want to keep playing your down forward 2 timing and you don't really want to worry as much about the possibility of getting whiff punished, going into weave is much more viable than it's ever been before. Not only this, the damage is outrageous at the wall. This is not optimized at all. I'm just doing something off the cuff. But you're doing over half, which is crazy. Furthermore, this might be his easiest confirm. On a technicality, there's not really leniency. Because if we see down forward 2 into weave is not plus 18, it's actually plus 14. And plus 14 is exactly, or 14 frames is exactly how fast left weave 1 is to come out. However, all you have to do is press your down forward 2, press your 3 button and hold back, so that supposing that you don't get a counter hit and you don't want to continue your advantage, you'll just go into guard. And if you heard the boom, just mash out 1-1. And if you do it quick enough, it'll come out before you go into guard. Big damage, knockdown in neutral. This is doing more damage than any of his previous like B&B options. This is 41. This is 44. This is 40. 48. This is up there with gattling. I don't know how much gattling is. 52, I think. Oh, 42. It's way more than gattling. So this is actually your biggest biggest payoff option, especially at the wall. It's far and away his highest payoff at the wall. And it's relatively easy to do. And if you're someone who's really trying to master down forward 2 in its totality, and you're playing at like a more intermediate to higher level, it's just one more thing that you really want to try and see how you can incorporate into your kit. Because once again, Steve players know this, left weave 1-1 hits from reasonably far away. Maybe not this far. Oh, that was pretty close though. So you're getting big damage at the wall from a decent distance. Even if you're at like low splat distance, if they're on like some kind of balcony break, you can immediately go for like an Albatross 2 or something to try and catch them before they slump. So this is just feeding into the possibility for options. Furthermore, if we go back and look at Steve's B&B options, they're still really good, and I'm still using them all the time. This right here, cornerstone for not only learning the character, because it's teaching you multiple important components of how Steve works. 1, counter hit timing. 2, cancels. 3, while standing 1-2 on hit situation. This is all super important. +3, force crouch, a little bit of pushback. It's like one of the like hallmark classic Steve situations in general. And it's going to teach you so much about the game, getting really good at the situation. Obviously, when you're starting off, you're going to be looking for your back 1, right? Your +3, they're in crouch. So if they dick jab, they'll avoid your back 1. But if they do any kind of while standing move, if they're just mashing willy-nilly, they're going to eat this, right? And then that's slowly going to change over time. Maybe they're going to stay down. They're going to stay down and they're going to try and do their launch attempt on your back 1. And now it's like, oh, okay, what do I use next? Maybe I'll do a down forward one. You do the down forward one. Maybe they're of a level where they're trying to incorporate stepping into their game plan. So you're hitting them with this. And then you're stepping to realign with them when they go to do a button. Or you're using like a slow button like flicker 2 or like up back 2-1 to catch them doing a step mash. All of these different layers. And it gets even crazier when you start to add in, you know, your own movement options. Maybe you do this just into backdash to make the most of that space. Maybe you do it into flicker. Maybe you do it into old mate up back 3, raw Lionheart. And even there, I know Lionheart's the most brain dead thing on the planet, but there's some nuance. You do your up back 3 and they just stick out a down forward 1 or a jab. Your Lionheart 2 is not going to hit them. Which is going to incentivize you to try and focus on actually reacting to what it is that they do when you press your up back 3 and then deciding accordingly, okay, maybe I can do a Lionheart 1 to try and catch them if it's going to be a faster option. Maybe nothing I do is going to catch them, so let's just run a mix. Maybe I don't know what I want to do, so I'm just going to go into weave, or I'm going to go into duck, and I'm going to guard. The decision space is very large, right? You get so many things that you can potentially mess around with, and so this remains a hallmark. It's not something that's easy to fuck up like I just did there a second ago. You can always rely on it in the clutch. And it's good damage. It's 41. It'll take a chunk off. It'll make them second guess themselves. Then you've got while standing 2-2. This was something that was a little less accessible back in Season 1 because obviously you weren't as plus when you got your counter hit. But now that it's more accessible, this is a really, really good second backup option as like a catch-all. Like, oh, I don't know if I'm confident in my execution, or I don't know if I'm confident in the situation that follows. Because you're in Lionheart at +11, meaning the only thing they can do to beat Lionheart 1 is like a 3-frame parry. And I don't think most characters have one of those. It's going to be Power Crushes, it's going to be Rage Arts. And so this is just a really good, get the fuck off me. I don't know what I want to do. I'm just going to take my damage and I'm going to chill. And it's either +11 Lionheart or it's +7 no stance. And +7 no stance. What does that mean? +7 no stance is really fun because 1, another down forward 2 is going to frame trap them. But 2, more interestingly maybe, this is a bit of tech that's been around for a while. Some of you may already know it. If they do a jab and you do up back 2, watch what happens. That's a true +20 trade for an up 2. Some particularly insane Steve players were doing this before he even got the up 2 change with raw peekaboo up 2 or peekaboo up forward 2, which is kind of insane. Shout out CZR. But this is just more food for thought, right? You've got more ways to express yourself than you probably think that you do. While standing 2-2 situation +7, a lot of your mids aren't going to whiff to sidestep as well. You can go for your QCF1, that'll frame trap. Your back 1+2, that'll frame trap. You can really lock them in place. Potentially they're mashing out a jab or something because you've been doing stuff like while standing 2-2 into a delayed Lionheart 1, which is quite common because you want your Lionheart 1 to be unfuzzyable with the guard break, right? So a lot of Steve players, by default, will try and delay it a smidge. Maybe they're going to get chewed up by a jab string, like a G-clef or something like that. G-clef be fucking gone if they're doing this. Like, that's a death sentence right there, right? Which just gives you even more mental pressure. So yeah, even in a situation as air quotes brain dead as the while standing 2-2 situation, there's still room for you to express yourself. Furthermore, we've got gattling. This was something that was also kind of a, oh, that guy plays Steve back in Season 1. And even in Season 2, I feel like you only really see it from players who really know what they're doing. And that's not necessarily because it's any more difficult now, but rather because your potential reward, I guess, might be a little more amorphous. When you do while standing 2-2, the reward is very immediate. I get my mix, don't have to really think much of it. It is what it is. While standing 1-2, it's a more amorphous situation than while standing 2-2, but the potential for immediate reward is there. You toss out your back 1, or you toss out your flicker 2, or whatever it is, depending on the information that you've got, right? With gattling, though, it's a knockdown situation. You can run in for a while running 2 on their wake up, which is going to give you a ton of push to the wall. And I think this is the main reason why you mostly see it from specific high-level Steve players, is they're really taking into consideration aspects like stage positioning. This is going to give me way more carry to the wall. I'm still potentially able to get plus frames if they stand up immediately. Maybe I've made a good read on some of their Oki habits, so I'm going to like run in and then I'll step and I'll mix them up or I'll do whatever. So the potential for reward is still there, but you're also kind of tipping the scales in your favor in a very direct way that's not necessarily as tangible to some players as immediately having plus frames to work with, right? The other fun thing with gattling, which hasn't really changed, is the way that you confirm it is a little bit different to his while standing 1-2 and while standing 2-2, insofar as you do the counter hit, and then you're kind of trying to confirm the explosion sound effect as to whether or not you continue your duck or you cancel your duck into crouch. You can't go into crouch and then do gattling. Doesn't work. It's not like Shiro back in Tekken 7. You need to hear the explosion and then mash your 1+2, or hear nothing and hold your down back. And I think, you know, potentially trying to juggle that slight nuance in how you go about actually confirming the counter hit might be partially why a lot of Steve players don't actually go for this. It's absolutely killer at the wall. Really big damage. Not as much damage as the left weave 1-1, but you're doing it off of duck. So if you already intended to advance, if you already intended to try and go under something, this is doubling for that as well. And finally, we get to the creme de la creme. Old mate, full crouch down forward 2. And this is kind of where I want to make my big PSA to all of the people who complain about Steve not being a counter hit paragon, or people complain about his lack of difficulty. I'm hoping that just in explaining all the stuff prior to this point, a lot of you have kind of gotten the idea that maybe there's more to his complexity than initially meets the eye. And now that they've actually made it the case that he has enough frame advantage to go for a just frame launch, I think it's no excuses. Now, that's a no excuses with caveats. I'm actually going to provide some excuses now. Being a Steve player myself, it's very easy for me to want to say that this is like the hardest thing in the game. I don't believe it necessarily is. I would say the hardest thing in the game is probably having electric block punishment. But that's what I'm going to use to describe why I believe this to be harder than something like a taunt jet upper, for example. And more in line with something like a perfect electric is the fact that you're doing it on a timing that's changing. So while this is consistent, this sequence of inputs is consistent, you're needing to confirm in the neutral whether or not you got that counter hit explosion and then go for the full crouch down forward 2. Much like a Kazuya player is going to confirm if they got their down forward 2 on counter hit before they go for their perfect electric. But the difference between Steve and Kazuya, while I believe Kazuya has the harder technical input, Steve actually is minus 15 if he fucks this up. So it's quite risky. I will say it's quite risky, and this game is mostly played online. I don't want to give you Steve players too many excuses. I will say that I understand if you're hesitant to go for it. But I will say, if you're going to talk shit, you need to be willing to back it up. So I don't want to hear anyone complaining big time unless they've shown that they're able to land this shit online in matches or in tournament or whatever the hell. Because elitism is cool, and I'm an elitist. I've decided now, in this moment. Hopefully, all in all, for those of you watching, this has given you a really good portrait of, or a really good image of some of the complexity that Steve does still have. Obviously, they've made efforts to streamline him. They've made duck forward 2 and peekaboo 2 provide the same situation on block as his up back 2, right? But here's like another cool point of intrigue. We recently saw Hero Malik do this to someone in tournament. And it wasn't very exciting, and he did a really bum-ass combo, and he lost the round, which was really funny. But here's like one other cool aspect to Steve that you're always going to find if you look hard enough. And this is going to be a reach, it's going to be a cope for some players. But they've tried to make it so that he's got access to his Lionheart mix off of other moves, right? That's the aim of these changes. The problem is the way they've implemented it, and I'm almost certain this is an oversight. These moves either don't advance Steve further than up back 2, or they don't, or they've got more pushback than up back 2. Because you'll often find if you do something like this into this, or this into this, your opponent will be able to backdash the guard break, which invalidates the mix-up. Because all you've really got is Lionheart 1 on block, and sometimes even that'll whiff. And so what do you need to do in order to try and go for this mix in neutral at all? You need to do your duck cancels into up back 2. This is really silly, I agree. But it's just kind of more food for thought. Another aspect, anyone who's at like an intermediate level or higher, his 2-1 string. This was something I harped on about in my video about Steve's design philosophy in Tekken 8 when the game had just come out. They buffed the range on this move from Tekken 7 to Tekken 8, so it's actually now a really, really good poke string. And over the course of the game, a lot more players have become aware that if I just sidestep after the 2-1, I'm going to avoid a lot of the fast options that Steve has access to from Peekaboo and from Flicker. It forces him to rely on Peekaboo 2, which is going to lose to sidestep duck, which then forces him to do stuff like delay timing, approach, Peekaboo down forward 2, right? And so your ways in which you have to combat these options now are having to become a lot more nuanced, because you're having to do stuff like 2-1 into Flicker 2 more immediately, more often. Maybe you're trying to track with while standing 2. Maybe you're trying to do stuff like those micro approaches, which was something that you kind of had to do in certain situations in Tekken 7 as well. And so, yes, they've made this push to try and make Steve a lot more streamlined, but you can still find so much nuance and so much fun and so much expression in his move list if you're willing to look for it and willing to mine for it. And capping it all off, I feel like down forward 2 is just the perfect move to demonstrate this because of the sheer depth of options, all the different situations that are provided by all of these different options, and obviously your ability to try and optimize the ever-loving shit out of this. It's magical. It's magical. I'm gonna be really nonchalant and pretend I'm not stoked that I just hit that midway through a tangent. I hope you guys all appreciated this video. I apologize if it's a bit long-winded, but I've kind of wanted to talk about this one for a little while, because I know a lot of players are really disheartened with how Steve kind of functions in this game, but then I'll go and watch Hira, I'll go and watch Strog, I'll go and watch Cowan, and there's always that buzz when you see them doing well, and there's always that buzz when you see them using interesting options. And I feel like full crouch down forward 2, I don't think it's necessarily going to be the next evolution for competitive Steve players, because the downsides are quite dire and it's literally frame perfect. But for the rest of us, I think we can still aspire to something greater. I think we can try our best to really eke out what we can from this character. And I'd love to hear from you guys. If you guys have anything about Steve's down forward 2, just general revelations you've had about this character of late, please leave them in the comments below. I'd love to read them. If you've got any ideas for anything you want me to touch on in the future, also let me know. I'm probably going to do more of these tangent style videos because I really hate editing videos at this point in time. So If there's anything you want me to touch on, do let me know. And have a wonderful day. Toodles. Steve down forward 2 was buffed a little while back to become a counter hit launcher. If performed correctly, there's a 57 frame window from frame 1 of your down forward 2 input to the impact frame of full crouch down forward 2, which is the launching component of this counter hit confirm. Hit a counter hit down forward 2, cancel into duck, hold down back so that your duck stance will cancel into full crouch at the earliest possible frame, which according to Australian science is about frame 41. You then want to press down forward and 2 on frame 42. There's no neutral frame in between, and congratulations fellow hitbox players, you've done it. Now the simplest way to practice is record a reset state, then set the bot to stand or stand and approach, set the player's state to counter hit, 2 hits in the combo counter marks success. If you want to practice in a more match relevant sense, set the bot to random guard and add an on hit or block reaction to perform a movement option. I've got Feng stepping to the right enabled, set the player state to shuffle counter hit. You are now forced to confirm a blocked down forward 2, a down forward 2 normal hit, a down forward 2 counter hit, and you're periodically going to need to realign. I like to shuffle stand guard, crouch guard, and punch parry if my down forward 2 is blocked. If the down forward 2 normal hits, I shuffle a while standing poke or full crouch down forward 1. Due to the bot set to stepping, if I'm slow to input my while standing 2, he's going to avoid the move outright, making it even more important to be sharp. And on counter hit, I tried to go for full crouch down forward 2 as much as possible, but even just getting a while standing 2-2 confirm is valid. Keep going until you flub, then reset and try again. Good luck! Good luck! Please don't nerf it, Namco, please God.